Why did the King of Sweden die suddenly one evening while eating his favorite food? How does a money vault kill a person? Can an orange peel take a human life? What percentage are you likely to die if you bite your tongue? The world's strangest causes of death. People can die for many reasons. The ones you are about to watch are among the causes of death that you may never think of. In this episode, you will watch the strange causes of death that have made world history, and some of them still remain a mystery. Death is the definitive end of the vital activities of a living being. The loss of vitality of any tissue of living beings is also called death. In order to be able to talk about the death of a living being, it is necessary for the vital activities to cease, never to return. Most of us eat with pleasure every evening. King Adolf Fredrik of Sweden loved the food so much, and he died because of it. In fact, the king was very healthy. In 1771, at the age of 61, he collapsed and died after eating meats, lobsters, soups, smoked meats, champagne, and 14 of his favorite desserts. The famous whiskey taster Jack Daniel arrived early in business one winter morning in 1911. He wanted to open his safe, but he couldn't remember the password. Jack kicked the safe in anger and his toe was injured. He died of an infection from this place.
Riverman William Hill looks over his rubber barrel made of 40.
This is the world-famous Niagara Falls, 51 meter high. A man named Bobby Leach is the second man in the world to jump through Niagara Falls in a barrel. In addition to this jump, Bobby, who had other death-defying attempts, was walking down a New Zealand street one day when he slipped on an orange peel and broke his leg. It was such a bad break that the leg had to be amputated. The brave man soon died of fractured diseases. In 1911, French tailor Franz Reichelt decided to test his invention. He jumped out of the Eiffel Tower with a parachute of his own making, but the parachute did not open. The man who fell from a height of 300 meters died. Grigory Rasputin, a Russian mystic whose life was full of mysteries, died in 1916. Rasputin was first poisoned by 10 people, but did not die. Then he was shot with a pistol. He did not die. Then he was shot 3 more times. Again he did not die. And he was beaten incredibly and tried to be strangled, but he did not die. Rasputin finally lived peacefully in a town and died of natural causes. Isadora Duncan, who was a pioneer of modern dance, loved to wear a scarf. As described in a New York Times article, in 1927, she drove in a very fast automobile, while a scarf made of strong silk got stuck the wheel from the wind. They tried to remove the scarf, Duncan's cello-playing teammate and hairdresser, who was strangling her with terrible power. They couldn't save Duncan, even though the car was aided immediately after it stopped. The odds of 1 in a million killed her.
Really, the end of the line of Sarasota County, which Northport is.
Christine Chubbuck was the first and only news anchor to commit suicide on television. In 1974, 8 minutes after the start of the TV show, the presenter became depressed. We reported the police's latest news, the latest bloody murders and colorful lives. Now you're going to see another one, she said, and then she took out her pistol, put it to her head, and fired it. The woman died in front of those who watched her on her screens. Robert Williams was the first person to be killed by a robot. In 1979, Williams died in a Ford Motor storeroom when he was climbing up the layers of material, suddenly hitting himself in the head with a robot working. The second death took place in Kawasaki in 1981. Kenji Urata was a 37-year-old engineer. The arm of the robot that was broken while running suddenly spun into Urata, causing death. Actor Vic Morrow died on set during the filming of The Twilight Zone. During a helicopter explosion scene, a flying propeller decapitated the actor, causing his death. 2 child actors also died as a result. After these events, the safety conditions and laws on movie sets in the US were renewed with very severe conditions.
This contest is an heavyweight contest of 6 5-minute rounds.
British wrestler Kirk, nicknamed King Kong, suffered a heart attack in 1987 while trying to belly splash the final match, which was to jump and land on his opponent. Before the match, Kirk told his friend that he was going to die one day and that he hoped that death would be in the ring. In 1991, a 57-year-old Thai woman, Yukit Payne, stepped on cow droppings and fell while walking on her farm. As she fell, she tried to hold on to the wires, but she died as a result of electric shock. Soon after, her brother, 52-year-old Yukit Pan, went to the same place to show his name. But unfortunately, he also stepped on cow dung in the same place and died as a result of electrocution in the same way. In 2006, Australian wildlife expert and TV programmer Steve, Crocodile Hunter, Irwin died as a result of a stingray fish sting lodged in his heart. Steve was literally making fun of alligators. In 1983, a woman in San Diego was caught by the police while shoplifting at a shopping mall. The woman, who told the police that if they did not let her go, she would hold her breath and kill herself, lost her life by holding her breath until she died. Alan Pinkerton slipped and bit his tongue while walking on a sidewalk in 1884. This unfortunate bite later turned into an infection and caused Pinkerton's life. Danish astronomer Tycho Brahe had to hold his pee during a very long banquet held in 1601. Getting up in the middle of dinner was interpreted as a very rude act. Brahe, whose bladder filled too much, lost his life due to an infection caused by this reason. Austrian Hans Steininger became famous for his 1.5-meter beard. In 1567, Steininger died by accidentally tripping over his beard and falling, breaking his neck while going to help with a fire in his town. A man named Jake Fun, who wants to play a joke on his wife, pretends to hang himself from a rope. The wife, who came home, fainted when she saw that her husband had hanged himself. At this time, a woman with neighbors who saw the door open entered. Thinking that Jake and his wife are dead, the woman decided to rob the house and collect everything. Jake kicked the woman, who was about to leave the house with what he had collected. The woman died of fright, thinking that the corpse had come to life. This is not a movie scene. In a death in Italy, a man named Romolo Ribaldo, a resident of the city of Pisa, decided to commit suicide because he was unemployed. His 42-year-old wife begged Romolo Ribaldo not to commit suicide. Convinced, Romolo began to cry and threw the gun in his hand to the ground. The gun that fell to the ground caught fire, and the bullet from the gun hit Romolo's wife, and the woman died. An automobile slightly hit a pedestrian walking on one of the busiest streets of New York. The pedestrian says that he can get a lot of money from insurance if a passerby does not get up just when he is going to get up from the ground. The pedestrian lay down on the road again. The driver of the car, thinking that the pedestrian was getting up from the ground, stepped on the gas and the pedestrian was crushed under the car and died. An elephant keeper working at a zoo in America died by being under the elephant's feces while doing his routine cleaning. The mystery of this death in Russia has never been solved. While the calendar shows February 2, 1959, No one has been able to figure out what happened in the incident that took place in the Ural Mountains of Russia. On January 28, 10 students from the Ural Polytechnic Institute set out for a winter walk and a short-term camp. When a student felt bad, he stayed in a suitable area on the mountain to recover himself. The other 9 were found in the forest. Their abandoned tent was found torn from the inside. The first 2 bodies were found in the forest barefoot and with only underwear, while the next 3 bodies were found nearby area in a similar situation. 2 months later, the last victims were found buried under snow 75 meters away. 4 students had major internal injuries, broken ribs and crushed skulls. 1 had no tongue. The fact is that the investigators did not find any findings similar to the attack. It was stated that the last 4 victims were wearing clothes that were believed to belong to others and contained radiation. Theories put forward about avalanches, aliens and military test deaths have never come to a conclusion. This incident remained a mystery.
What happens at the moment of death? When you die, does your life flash before your eyes like a movie? How did the Estonian man who died and came back to life describe his death? Results of 25 years of secret research unveiled. Death is a subject that has remained a mystery since the dawn of humanity. We have also always wondered what happens at the moment of death. Human beings, who have been obsessed with death for thousands of years, have made great progress in the last 25 years and have carried out an interesting scientific research. The results of 25 years of research on death have been announced. What a person experiences at the moment of death and what happens after death are among the topics you will watch in this section. Death is the definitive end of the vital activities of a living being. The loss of vitality of any tissue of living beings is also called death. In order to be able to talk about the death of a living being, vital activities must cease, never to return. This is because it is often possible to restart seemingly stopped respiratory and circulatory functions by artificial respiration and heart massage in people who are in danger of drowning, freezing, poisoning, or whose heart has stopped. At a New York-based medical center, Dr. Sam Parnia and a large group of American and British experts observed 567 male and female patients over 25 years. The team vowed to uncover the many secrets of death. As the research team carefully examined the patients, they proved that they had 5 different reactions and experiences at the moment of death. This was a first in medical history. So how did they achieve this? When a living being dies, its breathing stops, its heart stops, its body experiences death pallor. Pallor of death is when blood pools in the lower parts of the body. The coldness of death is an irreversible drop in body temperature. These 2 coldnesses are experienced at the moment of death. In addition, rigor mortis, that is, the muscles remain in the state of contraction/relaxation in the dying state, and death spots, purplish spots caused by the accumulation of blood in the lower parts of the body, are also among the symptoms. After death, putrefaction occurs after a while. Subsequently, the corpse decomposes due to the activity of bacteria and fungi, and decomposition, the breaking down of the body into simpler building blocks. Finally, after a long period of time, the bones of the corpse remain, and this is called skeletonization. Let's look at the secret behind why people who have experienced death in all these houses say, "My life flashed before my eyes like a movie." The US study included 5 different experiences of more than 50 patients who died of heart disease. According to the study, it was revealed that some patients who had suffered a heart attack actually saw their lives flash before their eyes during their life and death struggle. It was determined that these people evaluated their own lives as they got closer to death. Experts have discovered that people in the fight for life can bring back many memories, from how they treated others to the ones they valued most. Some people were found to convince themselves that they had a purpose to go somewhere at that moment. Experts found that some patients in the same condition were still conscious and even realized that CPR was being performed. Accordingly, some patients may be aware of activities in the intensive care unit and even hear the paramedics at the time. Another chilling part of the study was the observation of 5 different experiences in people who experienced death. These 5 experiences were experienced by most subjects. Please watch carefully. In the 5 experiences of the people closest to death, the patients felt the heart massage, heard the voice of the paramedics treating them, realized that they were in intensive care, perceived their surroundings, saw their whole life flash before their eyes as a memory, thought they were going somewhere. Dr. Sam, who has spent more than 2 decades studying what happens when the heart stops beating, connected people who had come back from the brink of death to brain monitoring devices to see if there were any signals that their brains were receiving information. The devices also projected images on a screen in front of the patient during treatment and repeated words like apple, pear, and banana every 5 minutes. Dr. Sam said that while some patients remembered specific events at the time of treatment, when they were very close to death, some memories were probably false or misinterpreted. Another British specialist working with Dr. Sam reported that a patient was being treated with CPR after his heart stopped and told him that he believed he was burning in hell. "The patient told me that he was burning in hell," the doctor said. So the patient had felt a great heat. Was it really the heat of the flames in hell? Dr. Sam said, this burning was probably caused by a burning sensation in his body from a drop of potassium-4. So this burning sensation was explainable, but is it normal that at the moment of death, most of the patients observed almost like a normal person at the moment of CPR? In the study, 2 of the 28 participants said they could hear the medical staff while CPR was being performed. One patient claimed to have felt the pressure on his chest at that moment. 3 of the 23 patients said they had dreamlike visions during those moments, while 15 patients said they thought about their own lives and how they were affecting others during that process, saying, "It was as if life flashed before my eyes like a movie." 6 patients said they remembered those moments very clearly. This is very similar to the story of the Estonian man whose story we are about to tell you. Let's also look at death in spiritualism. In spiritualism, death is expressed by the term disincarnation and is defined as the definitive severing of the relationship between the soul and the body. However, the expression, separation from the flesh, here is not used in the sense of leaving the body, but in the sense of the soul ceasing to dominate the body, ceasing to influence the body. For the soul, which is an immaterial being, the verbs entering and leaving, which are related to space, cannot be used. According to Islamic belief, at the moment of death the soul is taken from the body and received by angels. If the person is a good person, her soul is received by angels of mercy. They take it towards the highest points of heaven. If the deceased was a bad person, the angels of torment will receive it and carry it to the lower layers of the earth. According to some beliefs, the soul of the deceased goes home. The spirit always comes home. It usually comes on Friday evenings and holiday evenings. They say, according to the term afterlife in the Islamic faith, the spirits that are not imprisoned but free, that is, in blessing, meet and visit each other. They discuss things that have happened and will happen in the world. Each soul will be with friends who are its equal in deeds and of its own rank. There are hundreds of different views and accounts of the moment of death and what happens after death. Let us move on to Estonia. Scientists from the University of Tartu in Estonia conducted a study on people who died and were resurrected. The words of one of the participants in the study, "When I died, I saw myself lying motionless on an ambulance stretcher," sent chills down the spine. Scientists from the University of Tartu set out to answer one of the most curious questions for the scientific community. The researchers conducted an anonymous survey on social media to find out what kind of environment deceased people go to. However, the participants had one thing in common. They had come back to life after death. These people, selected by the scientists, answered the questions prepared for them. The survey was marked by the testimony of a person who died and was resurrected in an ambulance. The person, whose name has not been disclosed, said the following: "I thought it could be a dream, I was the one lying motionless in the ambulance, and I remember feeling a great fear." Scientific research has uncovered a lot of new information, and people who have experienced death have talked about it many times, but this subject continues to keep many secrets. Let's see what facts science will present to us in the coming chapters. What are your thoughts on death? We are waiting for your comments. See you in the next video.